Lawyers of Reddit, what's the craziest thing one of your clients has gotten away with?
Okay, so this is very tame but is an actual case I worked on. One of my clients was seeking Social Security widower's benefits. What he didn't mention is that he hadn't seen his wife in 25 years. Or that she was alive, lol. He got regular disability in the end, and we didn't tell him that his wife was alive for her safety.
The "for her safety" part is a little concerning. I hope she's okay.
There's a chance of abuse, but spousal abandonment also isn't exactly a new thing. He could have assumed she died unexpectedly instead of just suddenly abandoning their marriage while leaving him to assume the worst.
If you mean legal technicality, a childhood friend of mine ended up being a New York DUI attorney. He went to night school for his law degree after a failed career in the UFL. Anyway, he had a client arrested for DUI under weirdly specific circumstances. In New York, having a key in the ignition if you're legally intoxicated is considered a DUI. This happened to a client of his. The guy realized how hammered he was, did not start the car, and just leaned the seat back and took a nap. A NYS trooper came across him and wrote him for DUI. On the stand, my friend was cross-examining the trooper. "So you saw the key in the ignition, is that right?" "Yes." "I want to make certain that we're talking about the same thing. You personally witnessed that the defendant's car key was in the car's ignition?" "Yes, counselor." Note, when a cop on the stand calls an attorney counselor, it's shorthand for fuck you. Trooper, one more question. Are you aware that my client drives a Prius? For those that don't know, the model Toyota Prius doesn't have a slot for the key like a gas-powered car does. There's no in the ignition with a Prius. The trooper had committed perjury. Trooper realizes his mistake, starts sputtering on the stand. My friend just turns to the judge. "Your Honor? Case dismissed." Gavel bang asterisk. Asterisk no, obviously, there was a lot more back and forth, but that was the effective outcome of the trial. He also told me that the trooper, who had been on a special DUI unit that generated tons of overtime, was returned to general road duty as a punishment.
As a punishment, you say? Well, he was caught lying on the stand. That means he probably had to get added to the Brady list. Which means every case thereafter, the prosecution is going to need to disclose to the defense in any case where they will have them testify that this particular officer was caught lying on the stand. That is a big problem for a cop in general. But particularly for DUI cases, it's a huge problem, since establishing probable cause often relies on officer testimony that isn't easily verified by the dash/body camera. Smelled alcohol, failed FST, etc.
Yeah, because the penalty for perjury is a demotion, apparently. I thought there were courts and prisons and stuff, but we wouldn't want to trouble the police with that sort of nonsense. What a heck, man.
Visited my post-conviction client in prison. He was in segregation. I asked him why and he said he stabbed his co-defendant. I expressed concern and he said, "Don't worry, it's going to go away." I saw the charging document, so I know he was charged. I'll be damned if it didn't just go away. I asked 0 questions.
The person he stabbed had it coming and he did the guards/gangs a favor doing the violence. Probably wasn't asked by a gang or paid. Guy just pissed him off and he solved a problem he didn't know was a common complaint. That's why it went away.
You missed the co-defendant part. It's likely 2 things. He's a rat and offered information to the prosecutors regarding another matter as a bargaining chip. Or he did it out of view of cams or willing witnesses and ditched the shank, leaving the victim testimony as the only real evidence. And if that victim is both known to you well enough to be a co-defendant, and scared shitless because you just stabbed them, well, that case may not make it too far before the prosecutors ditch it. Especially if you have the ability to also threaten that victim's loved ones. But my money is on him eating that finger-licking chicken. If you know, you know.
Not a lawyer, but knew a lawyer who got his very high-level Middle Eastern organized crime figure client off a 300 kilograms heroin importation on the basis that he thought he was being sent gold bricks and not bricks of heroin. They were wrapped in foil and he never checked weight or what was inside. Reasonable doubt, LOL.
The client was a personal injury attorney. I wasn't the lawyer on the case, but I worked on it. The lawyer was sued by a former client because the lawyer in question, during their personal injury case, began an affair with his client's wife. Months later, the affair was discovered and the client went after him for damages, claiming the lawyer damaged their personal injury case by having his focus elsewhere. Also wanted compensation for nasty divorce. While the lawyer lost his license for a year, he was able to escape in order to pay damages to his former client.
Know a lawyer connected to people on the O.J. Simpson case. Apparently the white Bronco had lots of blood in it, both of Nicole and Ron Goldman. Also their blood in O.J.'s house from him tracking it in on his shoes. For some reason, the police screwed up and it was inadmissible.
Trigger warning for being extra nasty. But my client was charged with eating their baby. But cannibalism is not illegal and the baby was born dead, went to trial to get it home and eat it. Everyone was sick about the situation but there was no crime committed.
I had a lawyer friend that got a guy off of a solid DUI based on some technicality, forgot the details. He was very pleased with the outcome and said this should bring in a lot of new business after his client spread the word on beating the case as a lot of people drive drunk where he lives.
Very prominent game show host and politician, more powerful than a senator, brutally taped and humiliated a 13-year-old girl, and the victim was just ready to go to trial, but withdrew the charges due to death threats she was receiving. This person is currently under multiple other indictments, and probably won't escape justice on most of them.
No responsible lawyer is going to answer this, even behind an anonymous username.
If US politics can teach us anything, it's that there's always another irresponsible lawyer waiting for their moment. Free my boy Rudy. He never did nothing wrong. Poor boy already got hair color juice dripping down his face.
It was 1984. I had a drunken driving arrest with a blood level of .18. Asked around and found the crooked lawyer linked with the crooked judge, paid $1,000. Cash to the lawyer, went to trial and was able to plead nolo and keep my license. The guys before and after me went to the chain gang. The judge was smoking while on the bench. Cobb County, Georgia. A few weeks later I finally went to AA and cleaned up my life. Now I have 39 years sober.
I'm not a lawyer, but my mommy is. One of the clients at her firm got away with insurance fraud for setting a car on fire for the third time. This was the third time one of his cars mysteriously bursted into flames in a span of like 8 years. All the evidence pointed toward insurance fraud. My mommy still has no idea how he got away with it.
Not my clients, but I've seen many civil cases where someone allegedly stole $1 million plus and nothing happens because the defendant is uncollectible and the state considers it a civil matter. Not to mention the countless times this happens in business with no penalty.
I knew a guy that got his chili corn conviction overturned on a technicality regarding unwarranted searches. Guy was in one of my college classes trying to become a lawyer.
Not a lawyer, but most ridiculous I know of was a friend who was underage decides to buy a keg after drinking all day. Drives drunk to the store, presents his fake ID and gets the keg, then proceeded to drive drunk back to the party. Cops pulled him over for erratic driving and asked for his license. Knowing there's a keg in the back seat, he gives the cops his fake ID thinking they'll just wave him along. Charged with drunk driving, falsifying government documents, minor in possession, and intent to distribute to minors. His lawyer knocked it down to a littering charge and 50 hours community service. His big daddy sure did have them deep pockets.
Not a lawyer, but I once worked in a bar where a customer pointed out a person to me who was a lawyer. If you ever need a lawyer, give him a call, the customer said to me. He gave me the lawyer's name and then said he had killed someone, intentionally, and the lawyer had gotten him off. I don't know why he told me, as that kind of freaked me out to know. A priest I'm not either, so I didn't need to hear his confession. And as he had already been found not guilty, he couldn't be tried twice for the same crime. But I made a note of the lawyer's name so if I ever needed a lawyer. I never found out who the mystery murderer was either, but he never came into the bar again while I worked there. Sure, he could have been pranking me, but he didn't look the type, and I didn't want to find out if he was serious or just joking.
Someone I know got caught with several hundreds of thousands of dollars of drugs and a single sheet of LSD back in the early 70s. He called the best lawyer in town. He's still alive today and somehow still has a license. And long story short, he used his Masonic/Gridiron connections to phone the judge, get all the charges dropped, and they even returned his drugs, except for the sheet of acid for some reason, with the request that he pay the corrupt lawyer with the proceeds ASAP. This is just one of about 20 stories I have about this same attorney, LOL. Honestly, if I ever name-dropped him or his connections, it would be a national security disaster for the state of Georgia, and they'd off me in hours, wink with temps sticking out. Another interesting story about the same exact lawyer is him renting out an island off the coast of Georgia where the lawyer, the aforementioned criminal, and hundreds of judges, cops, and big-name money movers all sat around and smoked weed at a time when that was a big no-no.
As a lawyer, I can't imagine many, if any, scenarios where it would be ethical to share something like this. LOL. Even if my client was like, sure, tell whoever you want, it raises more problems than just confidentiality.
Where I live, you can share those kinds of details as long as it's not identifiable.